Etch-a-Sketch app. Yeah, this is Tetris. Basically, somebody made a pretty decent Tetris for it. Looking for, oh, this is a fun one. What was that?
You have to turn the crank to rotate the pieces.
You can. I wouldn't, personally. This is one of the first apps that I found on itch. And it's got this like, and you're, oh, I'm never going to do it. It's so hard. Yeah. So there's a, I don't know if you can see the star up there. Oh no! So it's what? So I've spoiled myself. The joke goes on forever. It like, you can like, you get to some point where you've heard the punchline and then it kind of like goes back to some earlier point in the joke, but it's very long. But yeah, it keeps track of your high score. It's a high score game for sure. Yeah, like that's a good question. Where do you see your high score? Maybe it doesn't keep track of it. Obviously, a lot of production value went into that one. Let's see. I'll show the other first week. I don't want to spoil the like. So one of the coolest things about the system is like as you get it, you get a new game or 2 new games every week. So they're calling it a season. There's 24 games, and those are just all, you just get those for free. And they just show up on your device, assuming you're connected to the Wi-Fi. So the first 2 you get are Whitewater Wipeout, which we saw briefly, and then Casual Birder, which this is a game where it's kind of, you're a birder, and you like walk around and try and take pictures of birds. But it's got like it's got a lot of story, so I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. I haven't played it in a couple weeks. You can talk to this guy. So I got beat up by some skateboarders. And then this is the person I was supposed to find, so that clearly was meant to happen in the first 5 minutes of the game. So clearly not my kind of game, or else I would have played it more. All right, I think I'm going to get started. You're good? All right, awesome. So I'm Martin. This is this app that we're connected to my computer through is called Mirror, and it's something you can just download. So that's one of the coolest things about Playdate is how open Panic has really made all the development and just all the tools that come with developing for it. So they're really invested in people making their own stuff and being able to. The Mirror app is probably mostly for streamers. They want people to be able to stream their Playdate sessions. And okay, I want to play this guy. Oh, I don't. Yeah, all right. Let's see. Come on, can't you do online, offline? Yeah. Should have done this before. But I should be able to present without being online, right? What the heck? All right. I should have used Keynote. So okay, so this is me at the bottom. That's this is my socials, I guess. Although none of them are real social media, but my websites. Yeah, I do
contract software stuff. So I also make games, and that's what this is mostly about. I've now backburnered my game development a little bit. I consider myself a hobbyist, whereas before I was a freelance game developer too, in addition to iOS. I mostly do iOS. Now the game development's that's what I do for fun. So this is going to be all about Playdate. This is basically what we're going to talk about. And this slide is just for me.
So a little bit about the capabilities. It's a 400 by 240 pixel screen. It's 1 bit. That means it's either on or off. There, you can load transparent images, and it'll do that compositing for you, but every pixel will either be white or black. And it is like very fun to just have that exact resolution and be able to use just exact numbers for positioning, which I felt like I haven't done since like iPhone 1. It has like this input really, like so the crank obviously, you can get at the crank data in a lot of different ways. And I think it's really still being explored, like how many different ways to use it. You can get like its like delta, like it's it's either moved this much or that much. You can also get a delta value that is modified by acceleration, like how fast they're cranking it. And then you can get its exact position too, which I think a lot of games are using to really good effect. Obviously it has these nice clicky buttons, and it's got a D-pad. And it also has an accelerometer. I haven't actually played anything that uses the accelerometer in a nice way, but that's a thing that it has. And then it's got a mic, and it's pretty capable in terms of sound, but it really only has a mono sound out. So it doesn't have like stereo in any way. It does have a headphone jack, and I don't know if the headphone jack goes to stereo or if it's also just mono. I don't know. The sleep button on the top is like basically power, and then it's like, but the screen is always on, so you have to actually like kind of hold it or do some kind of key combination to turn it off. And then there's a system menu button as well, and you don't have access to that, but you can trigger events when that happens. So that's kind of cool. And then there's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but it's not in the SDK. You can't use it yet. But they say yet, so it's going to come. So the main way that initially they didn't release the SDK, they just released this pulp tool. And they said the SDK was coming, but this was the first thing that was released. And it's essentially a web-based, what you see is what you get kind of tool for developing games for it. And it's simple, but actually like super capable. You can do a lot of stuff with this. It's kind of, it's browser-based. It's kind of scene-based, although they call them rooms. You can edit sprites and fonts and sound and music, like kind of those are all kind of separate entities. So sound effects, and there's like a separate screen for music. And then, it like initially kind of seems like it's mostly meant for like top-down games that are tile-based, kind of Zelda-like games. But I've seen like there's one of my favorite puzzle games was made in Pulp, and it's like a real-time puzzle game. So it's like, okay, well, they can clearly do a lot of stuff with it. So you can kind of see down here, there's like this little tiny like behavior editor. So it has its own like Pulp script, they call it. So it's a scripting language that's even simpler than Lua. So it's very, very capable. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I have not played with this really at all. So that's it for Pulp. We can talk more about it if anyone wants to. Has anyone played with Pulp yet? Anyone in the room? No one. All right, cool. So I know more than all of you. So mainly I played around with the SDK itself, which is like a zip file that you check a box and say you want to download. And so it's got all this stuff in it. I think I was going to go through each of these kind of things a little bit. So the README has like some of the like nitty-gritty about mostly about the executables that are in there. But what's interesting is if you integrate with any editor and like there's now plugins for most of the editors you would want to use. You don't have to worry about any of the command line stuff or the tooling. You can basically just use the plugin that somebody made and then hit your play button in your editor, and it'll go open up the SDK with the correct variable parameters and whatever. And so that's great. So they have example projects in C and in Lua. I have not really played with the C ones. I've looked through them a little bit, but like I'm not really ever going to write C again. So I've been playing mostly in Lua, which I don't love Lua either, but it does feel like a more modern language. It's on par-ish with your Pythons, that kind of a interpreted language. Although I think it is compiled into these projects. So when you hit play, it compiles it real quick and then puts it in there. There's some cool documentation that is like customized for either the Lua or the C APIs. And then there's some freebies in the resources folder. There's like a bunch of fonts, so you can use. They actually also publish a font editor. So Panic made a little like 1-bit font editor, and you can take one of their fonts and modify it in a browser, and then download it and use it in your game. Or you can use one of their like 12 free ones or something. And then actually there's someone else has published here's a library of like a web-based library of like all these fonts. So there's a ton of fonts available. And I think that they started out by taking old like 8-bit Nintendo games and stuff and just threw them all in, they'd like emulated those fonts, and then so that's how it started. So actually there's a ton of cool I don't know, the old Tetris font or something. I don't know, there's a ton of fonts on there. So then there's the simulator binary, and there's the compiler binary, and there's like a utility that talks to your Playdate. Again, you really don't have to use any of those because you can use these like editor plugins to do that. So I have this is the important screen with additional resources, and I couldn't, all the URLs are super long, so I kind of made some of them clickable. So I'll like put this on Twitter, I guess, or something, and you can click through these. But there's just a ton of stuff already. It feels like for the amount of these that have been shipped, there's only been like 10,000 shipped yet. There's a lot of development happening. There's a lot of excitement about developing for it. And I think that's kind of how they positioned the thing in the first place, is they said this is a thing you can really play with and you can make your own stuff for. So there's, I don't know, I would say a good 20 to 30 games on itch already that you can download. And of those, 4 or 5 feel like real professional games, and most of them feel like toys. But it's fun. It just feels like a community of people really making stuff for it. Mostly in the Discord and the Reddit. The Reddit's less active probably, but the Discord has a lot of people, and their development forum does get a lot of activity as well. There's some engines that have been made, including this Noble engine was made by a local guy, Mark LaCroix, who made Widget Satchel, which you can play in the over there. And it's not there's not a lot to it. It turns some Lua objects into scenes. So if you're more familiar with using Unity or even some of the older what was the Flash editor, whatever it was, it'll feel more familiar to you. You'll be able to use some of the principles from that. But it's a fine way to start. And there's it makes getting in development maybe a little bit easier. And there's another one called Cotton, which is basically taking Pulp, all the functionality of Pulp, and putting it into your Visual Studio Code. So it's it's a big plugin for Visual Studio Code and making Pulp kind of in that. And then of course, there's a lot more capabilities because you can write a lot more code and do stuff that you would do in an editor. So that's really all I got. Does anyone have any questions or want to talk about stuff? So I was kind of hoping this would be more of a meetup with everybody who has one of these, but no one else in the room has one. But one person has one. Oh no, or you just have a question.
Yesterday that they're accepting game pitches now for a new season of games, or for the game store that will be included on the Playdate soon called Catalog.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in making games for Playdate, now is the perfect time. Unless you can talk to Panic about it.
Yep. Yeah, they just opened that up literally yesterday. Yeah. And it's unclear. I think they do already have the game. They haven't really said officially, but I think they already have the games for Season 2 picked out. So it's probably more for that catalog and getting just in touch with them. So if you have a real game, they want to collect all the people that are making real games so that they can do the next season or whatever. But yeah, Panic seems just such a cool company. They're really invested in this being a community and making good tools for it. So I think that's neat.
Have they shared anything about their vision of how Bluetooth is going to work?
They have not, yeah, nothing. And in fact, they haven't promised the Bluetooth capability, just the Wi-Fi. So who knows?
With a name like Playdate, I'm feeling like this is missing a big
Multiplayer component, absolutely, yeah. And I think you're not the only one that thinks that. So I do think they want it to happen, but I think like that seems pretty far down the road, is my guess. Like first, they have to give us access to even just access the internet.
Is there anything?
Nothing in the SDK. So the season developers, the developers who are part of the season or whatever, do have access to some networking, because some of the season games have, almost, I think all of them have leaderboards, and some have other networking capabilities. But I do think like there's some, I can't remember if you can actually like get at the firmware and like do your own version of the firmware. I'm not sure if that's open source or not. Because I feel like there are people already who, like somebody made a Twitter client and somebody made some other thing that definitely accesses the internet. So I don't know exactly how they did that.
It's an ARM core. Do you know what SoC to use?
I don't. But all that stuff is definitely available. Like what hardware is in there is like for sure online.
There's a really good series of videos they put out on how they designed it and built it that they are just really well done and fun to watch. I think they're on YouTube, but you can probably find them on their site. But
Yeah.
they talk about the industrial design, and they used, I don't own anything from Teenage Engineering, but that's who they worked with to make it, and they're a really neat design firm.
Yeah, so if you've seen I can't remember the names of any of them, but there's like these little like Game Boy audio emulators. They all look like Game Boys, but they're just like the width of a chip. Like they're like a, I don't know, chip is the wrong word, but they're like, not breadboard either. Like a
Stacked credit cards. Like
yeah, I mean, yeah, they're really thin and just you can see the circuit board. That's the word I was looking for. There's like just a single circuit board with like a screen like soldered onto them. Those are made by Teenage Engineering. So yeah, Teenage Engineering was the like hardware partner for it. Yeah, I should be passing this around because probably no one could hear you. Well, here, can I pass this back? Yeah, it's for the recording.
oh, that's right.
Is there any info on my videos or articles about where the inspiration for the crank came from?
That's a good question. I haven't, not that I've seen, but I haven't watched like a lot of the ancillary stuff. There are definitely like a lot of videos out there talking about the early development. Do you want to?
One of the YouTube videos talking about Teenage Engineering says like, and this guy's Sven, the crank was his idea.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mean, so Panic does have like on their website, there's like, you can see who's responsible for this, and there's like a credits page basically. And there, there's some cool like diagrams like this where they show like exactly what's inside it, and here's all the season 1 games, and you can read a little bit about each one if you want. The pre-order was $179, so it's pretty cheap. I mean, relatively speaking. They're gonna make this like dock thing, which maybe some. I mean, they haven't like made it yet, or they haven't released it yet because. So here's more about the capabilities. So here's like the CPU.
16 megabytes for a Game Boy.
Yeah, how big are your game files?
I mean, the stuff that I've made is like, in the kilobytes, like, 5K, 10K, 20K. And where it gets big is like anytime you start embedding sound, then you're, get a mega sound or something, and it's 90% of your application. But somewhere on here there's credits. I missed it, obviously. Oh, who made it? You, the credits. But you can there's actually another page with like, it's from the developer side, I think. So like, this is just names, but there's, if we go here, it's like, it talks about who made the SDK somewhere. The SDK is made by a small team, meet them. And then there's like more information about each of them and like what they do. And the same for the pulp. There's like a pulp is made by an even smaller group. But
Are they charging for season 2 games?
They haven't said yet. My guess is yes, but I don't know how much it'll be. No one really knows. But
They've got to pay the developers, so
yeah, they're definitely paying for development. So that was part of the opening it up to pitches, was they said, like, one of the things you can say when you pitch is like, do I want funding? And they basically say, like, right there in the form, like, we'd consider anywhere between 10 and 50K. And if you want more than that, let us know. And it's not impossible, but that's what we're mostly considering. So they're definitely talking about paying for development, which is cool.
Looks like a perfect Game Pass situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of like scoffed at the idea that like they're doling them out slowly, but actually I've really enjoyed it. Like every Monday you get new games and they just appear on your device, and it's like, oh yeah, I got new games today. They knew that was going to happen.
if you buy it now, you start.
The season starts when you get it. So as soon as when you register with the Panic website.
So you would have games that I don't have,
Right.
and I have to wait.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could go to YouTube and view like streamers playing all the games already. Yeah. Although I'm not actually sure that's true. Like, it hasn't been 12 weeks yet, I don't think. I think they've only been shipping for a month, a little bit more over a month. So probably not anyone has all the games for season 1 yet. Developers, of course, probably do, like the actual season developers. There was the developer forum was private until the SDK was released. So you can actually see some conversations that were like pre-SDK release on there, where they're talking about a little bit more hush-hush stuff, and then I think they trimmed a lot of stuff. They like got rid of anything that was like, this is maybe sensitive. But
What are you gonna do with it?
I've got I don't know if I don't have a build on here, and it's not building right now, but I have a game that's like tile-based. It's a grid game where you're moving around a cursor, and then when you crank, everything above and to the left of the cursor will crank through that center spot. So it's kind of, you're just manipulating the grid using this like thing that you can move around using the D-pad. And first version, you're just trying to make all the different tile types match, so next to the tiles of their same type. And then it's actually kind of neat. The only cool part in there yet is that all the tile types tile, so there's no line between them when they're next to a similar tile. This is hard to describe, but so they look like one big group, basically. They look like they're glommed together. And so I think I'm going to do like different cursor sizes with different arrows. So like, maybe the second level it'll move 2 columns instead of just 1. Like, I've got different ideas for like how you'll progress through, but basically the same game. You're just kind of like moving stuff around, and it's in a way it's a little similar to like the sliding hole puzzle, because you could just play it with just the cursor, just like moving around, swapping tiles. I should make it compile so I can show it off, but I'm sure. I'm really enjoying the crank, and I feel like that's what you want to, like, if you're going to develop for it, like, why not use the crank, I feel.
How do you feel about the long-term durability of the crank as someone who physically possesses it?
Yeah. So there's one game in particular, I forget which one it is. I'm not mirroring. Let's open up Mirror again.
I feel like it'll see a lot of abuse in some games.
Yeah, I think it's this one actually. So this game has some levels where, like, I thought this was going to be, so this game you actually like scrub through time, and each discrete level has like, you kind of like have to figure out like where do you need to step backward or where do you need to go forward, and like, so time is happening, but you're controlling this guy like moving forward or backward. Time travel adventure, Crankin presents Time Travel Adventures. Oh yeah, and so I'm on the 14th. So you're like trying to date this other like wind-up girl, and so like this, I'm on the 14th date, and like here I can like scrub forward and backward, So here I'm like moving forward, and then at some point there's going to be like so I always stop to smell the flowers. And then like, oh this, yeah, so then this level I have a room that I'm in, but then I like jump out the window. And then, and I mean I can just like go back and yeah, so I don't want to touch these pigs. She's like, nope. So like some of the levels you really have to like crank fast to like, oh, I need to run behind this pig, like maybe. So like, oh yeah. So this is what you see in this game a lot, is you just die over and over again. But like, I felt like I was gonna break the crank. Like I'm like, oh, this is too much. I'm cranking too hard. And I have seen online, I've seen some videos of, and so now I just have to like wait for the pigs to leave. But if I wait too long, my date will leave. But I think I have to wait through them. I mean, I obviously haven't beat this level. Anyway, I've seen some people post that their cranks have a little crack in them. Just like the handle part, not the arm.
But I've also seen that they were kind of like, it's something you can fix.
Yeah, yeah, they might release like, right. It's not one solid piece. I mean, there's definitely like there's a screw in there, and you could probably take this piece off by unscrewing that. It's not Phillips. It's like a hex wrench. It's very tiny.
Is there going to be an aftermarket for like high performance cranks?
I mean, I have seen a 3D printed like knob that people just fit over it, and then you can just turn the knob instead of the crank. I was tempted to print one.
I can see them replacing the crank with like, you remember when cell phones when BlackBerrys had wheels?
Yeah, a wheel would not be a bad idea. I was like briefly considering, and then was like, I'm not going to do that. Writing like an emulator for iPhone, like so you could play your games on the iPhone. And then I was thinking about UI, like how would you simulate the crank? And I was thinking it'd just be a slider on the right of the screen that you would slide up or down and be cranking. But I mean, it's Lua is like super embeddable. Like you can run Lua anywhere. So it'd be easy enough to get it running probably, but then I'd have to emulate the entire SDK, which seems like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
What's the process if you want to share your game with someone without getting panic?
Yeah, so you know, as part of this like simulator that you install in Nova. So Nova is like Panic's editor, and the other, like there's a Visual Studio Code plugin that does almost exactly the same stuff. Basically, every time I hit play, it's actually building the app and putting it in the correct simulator folder for me. That is, and it puts it in the same folder. So that is this. It's a PDX file, and that is essentially like some compiled code, and then all your assets are in there as well. So it's a bundle, and you can either I can take this file and I can share it with you now, or I can upload it to Panic has a website they called Sideload, and I could just show that off real quick if I can find it. I have too many tabs open. But here's like the itch page with a search for, oh, this is my library actually. So here's all the things I've bought recently. It's all Playdate stuff. Well, I'm online, so there, you just go to your account page, and then there's a tab for side loading, and you just grab, I can just like put any old file on here. And then this, if I upload here, it'll just show up on my Playdate, which is pretty cool. And if I want it to happen faster, like, because that'll just happen sometime in the future, I can actually go to the settings. Let's go back to my Mirror app. And in settings, you can see, like, this is all the Season 1 games that I have. And then down here is, like, all the games I've uploaded. And if it doesn't, like, eventually it's refreshing this list right now. And eventually it'll just, like, show up if there's one that I just uploaded. But like it also allows you to delete. You can uninstall. That one doesn't have any data. But if it has data, where's my drawing app? you can delete the data separately, which is cool. Yeah, so here's the size of my game. It's 29K. Yeah, I can't get on the Wi-Fi. The game data is saving just a single screenshot. Like, so when you leave the drawing app, it'll save like the drawing that you're in the middle of. That's almost half the size of my game, right? Like, and that's it. That's just a screenshot.
Is there a convenient way to load games on without relying on their
Infrastructure? Yeah, okay, yep, so I can show you that too. So in the simulator, when you've got this connected via USB, this shows up. So it doesn't show up otherwise. And so it's like a little, this menu. So I can use device as controller. So I can, instead of using the like little crank circle thing, I can actually use the crank on my device to control the simulator. Otherwise, I can also like control the device with the simulator. And then otherwise, I can like boot it to recovery disk or boot to data disk, get a screenshot. Yeah, oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so like, so yeah, when I'm actually playing a game, I can upload the game, or when I'm playing something I built, I can upload it to the device just right from here. And that's just using that utility, like binary. So I mean, if I knew the command line thing, I could do it via the command line as well.
Uploaded this way will still show up in like the settings list, and you can manage them the same as other games.
Yep. Yeah, and so I can also like boot this thing to a USB drive basically, and just browse the files.
So if you were sharing your PDX file, you can just send someone that, and they can drop it on there as a flash drive.
Yep.
If they weren't, savvy enough or didn't want to download an emulator.
Yep. Yeah, I think they have to put it in the right folder, like it's in the games folder, so they didn't need to throw it in there. The other nice thing about the side loading and uploading it via the side load is you can upload a zip PDX as well. So it's like, they're slightly smaller, and all the operating systems know what to do with a zip as opposed to a PDX. Do you have another question? Yeah.
How would you rate the ability to like get into the actual device and tinker around with it like physically? Like, is it like hard, or is it on the easier side?
Oh, it's definitely easy to mess around with it. Like, do you mean the physical device, like the hardware? That I couldn't say. Yeah, I mean, I have not done that, and I would be way scared too, because these are so hard to get right now.
I just watched a YouTube video on LCD screens, and I think it'd be cool to even just mess around with the polarizer.
Yeah, so if you join the Discord, there is a hardware channel already, and there are folks messing around with that already. So I will not be one of them, but yeah. So I don't know anything about it really, but there are people trying to do exactly that. I saw someone installed to like a backlight basically, which it's the exact same backlight I installed for the Game Boy Advance. Like they're using a Game Boy Advance one. And having done that myself, I'm like, yeah, I would never do that. It's too beautiful a screen.
So are you going to get like the little lamp accessory?
Yeah.
I did consider the magnifier. Yeah, I mean, like people are using. There's all kinds of like screenshots and videos of people like trying to augment it. I've been pretty happy with it. Like the screen is not hard to see, even in not like low light conditions, but like not super, like not a lot of light. I've been playing it at night with just like a side lamp next to my couch, and that's been fine. So.
How's the, like, in the SDK, is there anything to do with like battery life or power management? Can you?
No, you don't have any access to that stuff. I can show you what's in the SDK.
Do some games like noticeably impact like battery life, device performance more than other games?
I think it's pretty easy to make something that is like using a lot of battery, but I shouldn't say using a lot of battery. It's very easy to bog down the processor and make something that only runs at like 2 frames, because it is a very like small device, or incapable device. It's like hardware throttled, but I haven't seen that any of that has any impact on the battery. But I have, I've only had it for a few weeks, and like basically I keep mine plugged in most of the time, so I haven't even really noticed how long the battery life really is because I'm like trying to make stuff for it, and I just have it on my desk plugged in. I have run out of. I've noticed that the battery was like almost out like a couple times, but I think that was after like a day or two of not using it and just leaving it on the desk. Was there?
Get access to the dev tools without owning one?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So yeah, like I said, it's just like a checkbox on the developer site, like saying like, yeah, I agree to these terms, and then you can download it. Yeah.
The 16 megs of RAM for a 1-bit Game Boy is insane.
Yeah.
There are hard caps on the sprites or the number of sprites, the size or the number of sprites.
Not that I've seen, no. I think like, you know, like I said, it's pretty easy to like run out of memory, or I don't know if it's memory like or
CPU.
probably CPU, yeah. But it's not like, I mean, I certainly haven't had any problems with that, so.
I would imagine it doesn't really have sprites the same way like the NES had sprites, or where there was a dedicated hardware component that was doing sprites.
Maybe.
I'm saying I don't think it.
Oh, you don't think it
I don't
does?
think it would do it that way these days.
Yeah.
You have those sorts of resources available.
I don't know. I do know that the SDK itself does have the concept of a sprite. Like you can basically just load up a image. You can load up an image and just split it to the screen, like put it on the screen. But you can also load it up into what they call a sprite, and it's like, and then it becomes like an object with physics and like, you know, so it's pretty capable just like with one line of code to like build something that bounces around or has like, you know.
Yeah, what do you get for a physics engine?
There's not an engine, but it'll do like collision. So it doesn't do like, you know, bouncing and, well, I mean, so you can add, yeah, that's a good question. It must have some physics stuff built in, because you can add like, you know, I don't know what the word is, like some motion to the objects, and you can have them collide, and you can get callbacks when they collide and stuff like that. So I guess there must be some kind of rudimentary physics engine. I've seen people port Box2D already to it. I haven't seen any reference to Chipmunk made by a local guy. So Chipmunk's the big competitor to Box2D, the 2D physics engine world. Yeah. Any other questions or anything?
How do you feel about Nova? I've been like on the fence, trying to get it and try to get into it, but you know, it's a big commitment to like change your end or whatever. How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, I have enjoyed it. The main reason I think that I was initially like pretty happy right away was that they have a Vim mode. So I was able to just like check the Vim mode box and like, yeah. Just like Xcode's Vim mode, I was still disappointed by how much it supports, but it's not terrible, and it's fine. I'm still using I have 10 days left to test Nova, but I think I probably will buy it because it's only $100, and like, you know, I've definitely used it. I don't know, hours and hours this month, so worth it to me. But yeah, it's fine. It's capable. I've had it crash on me once, and I think I was doing something a little weird too. But yeah, it's really just for the play button and like the integration with the SDK that I'm using it at all. I did download Visual Studio Code thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll just use Visual Studio Code. I've used Visual Studio Code before and been pretty happy with it. I love how, you know, plug-in and focused it is and how everything's configurable. And I could not get it to work. This is my new, like, you know, M1 suite Mac, and something was messed up about it, so I would have had to spend more time. And I was like, I'll just download Nova, and then it worked instantly, and it was great. Yeah.
With a name like Playdate, you think they want it to be something that's very social, and it sounds like the capabilities are still limited, but have you come across any games that have, I don't know, tried for some sort of LAN or wireless, like play with your friend type thing?
Yeah, like so I did kind of mention it's not there's no networking yet in the SDK. So I have seen there are some projects out there where people are hacking in some way to get at like Like I think there's like a Twitter browser, and there's like somebody else made like a, I don't know, it was some other techie browsing thing. And then somebody was working on a web browser too, but they were doing it with like a backend server would go and screenshot the web page, and then you would get like images for each page that you were browsing.
I bet you could do something with the microphone and the speakers to communicate with each other. That's kind of super locally.
Yeah, that'd be neat. Yeah, I haven't seen anything along those lines yet.
How good is the microphone? Because I noticed on their website it wasn't listed under the actual inputs. Like, is it kind of not really a big thing right now, or?
I mean, I think I have not seen any apps that use it, to be honest, so I'm not really sure. I know it's a capability, but I don't know that anyone is like really pushing that limit yet. So I haven't used it either. I can't really say.
Oh, yeah. I wonder how long they're going to stick with this model, or are they like planning to do like a playdate-to-head? I mean, I know it just came out, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a device that could definitely use like something like infrared like multiplayer would be like not a super.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've seen like a couple people ask in the forums, like, is that, are they already working on the next one, or are they thinking about that, or like, I think they're just working on shipping right now. Like they're fulfilling like, I don't know, 100,000 orders or something, 10,000 at a time.
That's the question is, have they said how many they've sold?
No, but I think they've said how many batches there are, and I think that we're assuming the batches are 10K. So I think it's like around 100,000 they sold.
They're going to be sold out till next year.
Yeah, I think, yep. They said like if you pre-order now, like you'll get it next year probably. So.
You get one on eBay?
Oh yeah, for sure. You can spend 2-3 times market value and get one for sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. So we're good. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.